Hi guys, welcome back to Treehouse Garden. Let's talk about squash today. Are you already growing tired of your zucchini, trying to find ways to use it up or passing it off to your neighbor? The key to a good summer squash garden is variety. Now if you go to the local Home Depot or your local nursery, you're probably not going to find a lot of variety. However, if you're adventurous and you want to shop in the seed catalogs, you will see there are hundreds of types of squash that you can grow and try. So next summer, instead of just planting zucchini, add a companion plant or try something totally new. This year in my garden, I have over 7 different squash growing, and it's kind of exciting to try new things, try out new recipes, and see them grow at different rates. So today, let's look at my squash patch and talk about things you should be doing on a weekly basis to make sure that your plants stay healthy and happy and thriving all summer long. Yesterday morning, really early, I went through and I cut off all the leaves on my squash plants that were brown or yellowing or touching the ground. I also took out some leaves that were extra large, giving the plant more room and airflow at the bottom. So here's kind of the remnants of one pile near the beginning of the squash patch. So let's go look at the squash and see what I mean. Besides taking off leaves that are unhealthy or are too large, it's really important that you have some good airflow at the bottom of the squash. So I go in there and I trim off a lot of the leaves that are down at the bottom to make sure, number one, there's of course airflow like I said, but there's also room for the bees to get in there to pollinate the flowers, and this will promote more growth and more production. Oh, here is one of my zucchini plants. It's called Green Machine. I highly recommend it. I got those seeds from Johnny Seeds, but I think they're available pretty much at any nursery. But if you can see, I went through and I really cleaned up the bottom of this plant, so it was really compacted. It also had some weeds, and I still have some I can see there, but I tried to get in there and clean it out, and since then, just overnight, I already have more flowers. So again, go in the bottom of your plants and kind of take out some leaves, especially large ones, brown ones, yellow ones, ones that don't look happy, to promote more growth. Is a beautiful spaghetti squash. I'll know when it's ready when it turns yellow, so it still has a ways to go. And then, of course, every day I have a nice, beautiful production of my Green Machine zucchini plants. There is another beautiful spaghetti squash over there. Oh, and look, oh, there's some dirt. So did you know that this is the time you should be planting a second batch of squash? This might be a great opportunity to try a squash you haven't grown before. So yesterday, where I felt there was room in the squash patch, I went and I just did a direct sow of seeds. So I put the seeds down, and then I covered them with a nice light soil, and then I watered them in. So I added 6 more plants to the patch, and I tried to do a variety again, and I should be seeing a second batch, so when the first batch dies off, I will have another batch coming. Is a beautiful golden glory. It tastes the same, maybe a little bit milder than a zucchini, but it just adds a bright pop of color into your dishes. It's so cute. I have some baby acorn squash coming. Acorn squash, like spaghetti and butternut squash, if preserved correctly, you could house these in a cool area and use them all year long. So if you're into preserving food, acorn squash is definitely one to add to the list. I have a beautiful butternut squash here. It's getting close. It just needs to get nice and orange, and I'll know when it's ready. I have like 4 or 5 of these right now about this size, so that's super exciting. Here is a ready-to-pick patty pan squash. There's a lot of recipes out there on how to stuff them, kind of hollow them out and put stuffing in them, so I'm excited to try a new recipe on this. And these little boogers are really prolific. I probably pick 4 or 5 off each plant every day. Wow, what a beauty. That's a delicata squash. It's almost ready to be picked. It needs to get a little bit yellower in color. and this is one of my favorite squash, and that's why I have a whole row of it in the actual garden. It's my delicata squash in the garden in a row that I'm growing vertically. It really does like to grow vertical, I think because it has all this air and the bees can access the flowers quite easily. If I was to compare my delicata plants that I have in the squash patch versus the ones I'm growing vertically, hands down, these plants that are growing upright are way more prolific and they seem a lot happier. So if you're going to try delicata squash as an adventure, they're very easy to start from seed. Try your hand at growing them up a tomato cage or a cattle panel, and I think you'll see such a good production like I am. Last but not least, don't forget the time of day you water your squash plants is important. Your squash plants might be looking wilty, like they're screaming for water in the middle of the day. Let them wilt. Water them early in the morning or in the evening, making sure not to get the leaves wet. I generally give mine a good soak every 3 days. I also fertilize my plants twice a week. I buy Dr. Earth organic. It's just a general organic fertilizer. They come in little pellets, and I put them at the base of the plants, and each time I water they get absorbed by the dirt in the plants, and generally they dissolve in every 2 weeks. This keeps the plants nice and happy and healthy and productive. So let's end this video with a reminder. If you are bored of your zucchini plants, the key to a good summer squash garden is to add variety. Thanks for joining me today at the Treehouse Garden. I look forward to seeing you again.